Hello, welcome back to OMID TV. My name is Nازدانه عیان, and I will be interviewing Naheed Yaqubian. She's a candidate for Aurora Oak Ridges Richmond Hill, member of provincial parliament, and we'll be asking her some questions about her campaign.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for coming. So Ms. Naheed, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your campaign, please?
Sure. I'm a local lawyer in Richmond Hill, born and raised, and I'm so excited to run for member of provincial parliament to benefit our community. Aurora Oak Ridges Richmond Hill is this really neat little community in North Richmond Hill, and I've lived there my whole life. It looked very different when I was younger growing up. I was the only kid in school with an unusual name who brought different food to school, who celebrated different holidays, but now when you go to the grocery store it says Eid Mubarak. At Eid time. So the community has changed in the last 20-25 years, and I'm thrilled to still be living there and to watch the community grow.
That's so great. So what do you think, what's the difficulties you have faced being a Persian woman in Canada?
I feel very lucky that we live in this country. My friends and neighbors have welcomed me and my family with open arms. And so I was born here, but my parents immigrated to Canada 35 years ago. And my parents faced some barriers when they first immigrated here. But I have been lucky to grow up in a really, really welcoming and accepting community, and a community that is now incredibly diverse. And so I'm excited to run not only as an Iranian Canadian, but to represent the entire community of Aurora Oak Ridges Richmond Hill.
So what motivated you to pursue running for MPP?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I think we were all watching the American election over the past couple of years, both the primaries and the election of Mr. Trump. And while watching it, I was reflecting on the differences between Canada and the United States. And I realized that Ontario, our beautiful civil society that we have, is not a coincidence. It is a consequence of decisions made by everyday people to invest in the things that are important to us. So whether that's healthcare, whether that's education, whether that's a living wage for everyone, so that people can put food on the table if they're working 40 hours a week, whether that's pharmacare, making sure that people have access to the medicines that they need. These are decisions that we make because we choose to care for each other here in Ontario. And that makes our society different. And I realized that in this election, there's quite a lot at stake with the potential election of somebody who doesn't believe in that type of care. And so I'm always willing to defend our right to a brighter future.
Oh, that's so great. So what advice do you have for others that want to pursue politics but they're iffy about it? And especially other minorities as well that want to pursue it but they think they don't have an equal chance. What advice do you have for them?
To go for it. I was asked to run, as many women are. I think that it's important that we encourage women and young people to get involved in politics. And sometimes that means being a candidate, but sometimes that also means volunteering on a campaign, helping with setup and cleanup, picking up the phone and making phone calls. There are many little things that you can do to get involved in your community, whether or not it is even in a political campaign. And I think that those people, those volunteers, are sort of the backbone of our society because they're the ones not only at the events, but setting up the events, cleaning up afterwards, and making sure everyone has a good time.
I agree. So what are your plans for the Aurora Oak Ridges Richmond Hill area once you become MPP?
Transit is our #1 priority. So we are a suburban community about 30-35 minutes north of Toronto, and we have seen incredible population growth, such that we are a new riding, that our old riding actually had to be divided into 4 ridings because of the population growth in the area. So as MPP, if elected, transit would be my #1 priority. We need to make sure that people have access to accessible, cheap, reliable transit in the form of our GO train stations, and that people have incentives to take transit as opposed to taking, so we can also take cars off the road and make it easier for those people who do have to drive. So we have 2 new GO stations in the riding at Bloomington Road and at Gormley, and we're really excited to expand parking for other GO stations so it's easier for cars to get off the road. In addition, when people commute to downtown Toronto, there's now a discount for those who take both the GO train and the TTC. So I think that that will also help.
So that's like a win-win.
Yes, exactly.
So tell me a little bit about your writing and what makes it special from other writings.
I love living in Richmond Hill because of its diversity. Growing up in Richmond Hill, it looks a lot different than it does now. And you can see that diversity of Richmond Hill even at the doors. So when I'm knocking on doors, you'll see a sign for Chinese New Year to bring good luck and prosperity to the house. Or you'll see a little dog with the dog's name and say, please rescue our dog in the case of a fire. And so you get to know all of these different communities and these different cultures right on the doorstep, and it says so much about us. My volunteers have been offered Chinese New Year treats, chai, sweets for Diwali, Eid treats. It's really incredible, and we never knock on a door without getting invited inside. And the people are the best part of Richmond Hill.
What is your favorite part about the Liberal Party?
It's hard to pick my favorite part because there are so many parts about the Liberals that I enjoy, but my number one, the number one reason why I am a Liberal is because the Liberals are always on the side of everyday people. And I think that makes a huge difference when it comes to our community in Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill. So whether it's introducing a new program for seniors, Aging with Confidence, so that people can age comfortably in their homes, and that they can have funding to do things like mow the lawn, get some nursing care, get some housing care, or whether it's seniors pharmacare, allowing seniors and youth to have free medications when you're under 25 or when you're over 65. These are the priorities of the Liberal Party. They're the priorities of people that care for each other. And I think that that actually provides quite a stark difference in relation to our opponents.
I also agree. The Liberal Party does do a lot for for everyone, not just the middle class. I think for everyone, they try to appeal to each group.
Yes, and even for students, if you don't mind. We have a new tuition tax credit. So 2 or 3 years ago, we introduced a plan for free tuition, where lower income students and middle income students would receive free tuition, subsidized by the government, if they qualify to get into university. So as Barack Obama said, if you get the grades, you get to go, which is fantastic. I think that, in our communities, in Afghani communities and Iranian communities, our parents love for us to be educated. My parents said to me, doctor, engineer, lawyer, and I picked lawyer. That kind of push and that kind of background, I think, really resonates well with my community. And I'm really, really grateful that we're encouraging these bright young students to step up, to attend college and university, and to do it without having to worry about how they're going to pay for it.
Yeah, I think a big reason for why a lot of people don't pursue post-secondary is because of all the fees. But I think with this idea, it's encouraging others to pursue it, like myself as well. I was kind of scared about the high cost of going to university, but OSAP has helped a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a young lawyer. I was in school a little while ago, but not too long ago myself. And so I remember trying to juggle studies and the cost of going to school. And it's not easy for many young people. And when people graduate from school, they're thinking about buying a house, they're thinking about maybe settling down and having kids. And these are decisions that we want people to be able to make without that financial burden hanging over their heads. So if you're going to have a kid, you shouldn't worry about how you're going to pay for childcare. With our new childcare program, it will save families on average $17,000 a year, and more here in Toronto and the GTA, where the childcare costs are highest. So for people just starting out in life, I think the Liberals are a fantastic choice.
So following that, what do you think differentiates the Liberals from other parties such as the Conservatives?
I think when you look at the Liberal Party, it is very clear who we're fighting for and on whose side we're on. We have always been the party that has fought for minorities, for immigrants, for families like mine, but also for the middle class and for everyday working people. And that's really important to me. A little while ago, we had a situation where we didn't know who the leader of the opposition was going to be for about 2 months there. But we really realized that it doesn't matter who we're fighting against. It's who we're fighting for, because that clearly outlines our priorities. The opposition, I think it's important to remember who they're fighting for as well, and whose interests they have in mind. So Mr. Ford has said that he's going to roll back the minimum wage increase. That's not something we're comfortable with, because we think people deserve a living wage. He's also talked about making reckless amounts of cuts to various sectors within the province. I work really closely with the York Region District School Board, and our budget is $1.44 billion. And I think about 83% of that is salaries and benefits. Any cuts made to that lean system is going to result in services to our students getting cut. And I don't think that this is the time to prioritize the interests of big business and the interests of the wealthy over the interests of everyday people.
Yes, I agree, considering that the middle class has shrunk so much in Canada, where it's basically non-existent. So what can viewers watching this interview do to support your campaign?
Oh, that's fantastic. I would be delighted if they would support my campaign or any of my Liberal friends across Ontario. Get involved. I would say if you are interested in politics, if politics is ever something that has ever crossed your mind as something that you would like to learn more about, please do not hesitate to go online or pick up the phone and find out who your local candidate is. Contact their office and say, hey, I'd like to come in and make a few phone calls, or I'd like to come in and learn more about you. I'd like to sit down and have coffee with you. Just picking up the phone or just picking up your cell phone and going online, making that one step can make a world of difference, because now you're connected not only with your local candidate, but with a world of volunteers within your own community who have the same goals as you, who want to make Ontario a better place, and who want to continue building on the legacy of this Liberal government. So I would say don't hesitate, jump in and get involved.
So one final question is, what was your life like before being a candidate, and what is it like now as a candidate?
My life before being a candidate as a lawyer was a lot of late nights in the office, preparing arguments for arbitration, and doing what I can to represent my clients. I'm an advocate at my core, and so whether that's through my volunteer work or through my work as a lawyer, I'd always been an advocate for everyday people. And I realized that there is so much more that we have to do. And I'm really excited now to be out in the community and talking to people and learning their concerns and representing their voice so that I can be their next member of provincial parliament.
Thank you, Ms. Naheed. We hope you do become a member of provincial parliament. And for sure, I hope that everyone that lives in the area of Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill will look into Ms. Naheed's campaign, and if your interests align with hers, I hope you do vote for her. We're like cousins. Our countries are like right beside each other. We share a lot of the same culture, so support one of our own. Thank you for coming, and thank you for speaking with us and letting us know more about your campaign and the Liberals.
Thank you so much.